Good morning, everybody. Looks like set here, so just double checking audio levels on my end. And as always, welcome. Thank you for joining us today on Engineering the Markets. It is Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. We almost have a bunch of twos in our time date stamp today, but that was last year, just the day of twos. So interesting session yesterday. We did finally see a crack in the overall trend structure. We got a sharp move to the downside. And from a lot of different perspectives, this was kind of an anomalous move. Not only the spread of the downside, the fact that we are losing some structural trend levels, along with the SPX expected move. And this was something we didn't talk about yesterday, so I figure I'd just recap from some of the levels that should have been on the chart yesterday's session. So as we always do, every single Monday or beginning of the week, we go ahead and mark the SPX expected move for the trading week. The reason we do this is the SPX is a notionally large option market and arguably the largest notional option market available to US equity traders. Along with that, a lot of professional trade uses the SPX for different purposes, hedging, speculation. There's a lot of just money flow that goes through this particular index. And due to all this volume, the SPX often is quite good at implying volatility for the overall S&P, along with knowing where some of these price levels exist, helps us to understand how extreme or how nominal versus, I would say non-nominal, the market's movements are throughout the week. It's also a 4-day trading week. So we do have a shorter trade overall. Doesn't necessarily change how the market sort of calculates the expected move, but it just shows that there's only 4 intraday trading sessions to worry about for this week. So all that said, last week was a bit of an odd example of how the expected move was accurate in pricing the SPX volatility, but the market itself didn't actually move anywhere near what was anticipated. So most of the trade was somewhat captured around the February 10th close. And for the most part, the market expected about 104 5 points of expected movement. We only received approximately, I'll just go from the largest move, about 70 points. And if we look at where we opened and closed, or close to close from the previous Friday, we only really moved about 11 to 12 points. So it was a very flat overall week, just measuring from certain levels. When we look at this week, the market only priced about 73, 74 points. And most of that's due to the fact that it is a shorter week. But what's interesting was yesterday's trade. If we look at where we went to on yesterday's trade, the weekly expected move was 73, 74, and yet the SPX actually breached that 4,000 level and closed slightly under the expected move. So we moved approximately 80 to 85 points, especially if we're just measuring from the close, because we did have a gap down on the session. So very interesting price activity, and it's also indicative of volatility in the short term not necessarily being accurate. What we're noticing on yesterday's trade is that volatility measures have started to pick up simply because we're seeing price movement much larger than what the market is implying. And you can, just kind of mark off things like the VIX starting to see a little bit of an uptick. That's, of course, 30-day SPX volatility, but it does kind of carry through on the short term into, future series. We did get vol futures on the rise, once again, just kind of noting the anomalous nature of some of yesterday's trade, along with the fact that there was a technical breakdown. So just having some stars align oftentimes can lead to highly advantageous movements, especially if you're just a directional trader. You don't really care if the market's going up or down for the most part. You just care that you get the direction right. So some things to kind of note from yesterday's trade. Bit of a lower volume session, especially for how wide the spread was. I thought that was a little odd on this breakdown. So just lower volume readings in general. We're still not seeing the volatility curve flip, but it is getting tighter. If we continue to see selling, I would expect this to kind of invert. And at that point, we'll really start to see some pretty sharp sell events, especially if we're starting to see acceleration on the price movement. And for the most part, I would say that because we're at the expected move this week, we want to be careful maybe over the next 2 days. The reason being is oftentimes if the market touches the expected move on the first day of the trading session, or just kind of expresses the full weekly expected move in a single day, there's usually a little bit of stall. Oftentimes market makers will kind of churn through what was essentially the lower boundary of the expected move as traders start to reevaluate their risk components. And then from that point, the idea is that we might set up for further downside, assuming that we do have some technical structure setting up at this level. But I would also just warn, this is what the market expected for the whole week. So yesterday was kind of the full expression of a downside play for the entire week. The question is, are we going to set up for more, or is this going to be a bit of a quieter day, a bit more sideways on the trade activity? Obviously, sector-wise, there was some interesting correlation that took hold yesterday. This is usually how the whole index goes down in one fell swoop. You start to get the correlation coefficient really kicking in underneath the hood. So for the most part, all sectors were down, but like normal, there's a bit of an under-over. So the sectors that took the worst hit on yesterday's trade were consumer discretionaries. We also saw tech and communication leading. Industrials did have a big hit. A lot of this came from Home Depot's earnings, but it's not to say that other consumer discretionaries also fell to the downside. But if we look at just how one of the major players yesterday traded, it's obvious that Home Depot was kind of leading the sector to the downside. Remember as well, Home Depot does represent about 8 to 9% of consumer discretionaries. But the rest of the market was, in line. A lot of weakness in financials started to show. And for the most part, even the defensive sectors were down. There were some stall moments in their trade activity. And I wouldn't say that they were hit quite as hard, but I would also argue that the market wasn't necessarily prepared to go into those equities hand over fist. Usually we want to see if something is maybe leading or lagging, starting to improve, or starting to see maybe some relative weakness. Those sector rotations happen somewhat slowly. So, from a technical perspective, if the market does want to become a bit more defensive in the future, we would want to see, for example, utilities not necessarily strong on a weekday, but holding better on a weekday. And then, of course, on any sort of stalling day inside of the indices, these would be the leadership sectors if the market were truly rotating into them. For the most part, I'm not truly convinced of that yet, but we did see a couple of indications of that last week on some of the bounce days that we had. But nothing really has confirmed. A lot of it's just sort of one or two candle performance at this point. Sorry. And all in all, the idea kind of remains the same. The weakness that we saw yesterday was coming from overbought conditions. A lot of overbought in tech, a lot of overbought in discretionaries. And what we're trying to evaluate now is, are things starting to structurally break? For example, losing the 200 is not a good look for any sector. Discretionaries did lose the 200, assuming that we see additional downside from this point forward. So you never really want to see a loss of key MAs because it changes how more of the trade community views that particular sector, along with how sort of quant firms evaluate buy or sell programs. If you're only really looking at things from a numbers game sort of perspective, you do want to hold these key MAs on back tests. And right now things are a little shaky with discretionaries. The other sectors haven't really tested it yet, so that's where we want to maybe pay attention. So lots of relative weakness. It definitely was a day to consider the short bias trade. Sorry, contact's kind of messing with me. Okay. Good to go. But all in all, it's just a day. Remember, the week's not over. It was a breach to the downside. We did see a range breakdown. We really want to kind of see that continuation at this point, at which time, we'll start to evaluate the setups to the downside. That is still there. There's some trend lines that I'm looking for the market to test. Those the sectors that hold up the market. And in general, I'm starting to look bearish on particular sectors, of which, if you have a bearish bias in a couple sectors, the indices might not necessarily be outperforming. One sector that I keep bringing up is energy. I am looking for that to continue to the downside. Not necessarily all out at this point because we have the 200 kind of incoming, but I do want to see it retest that MA and maybe kind of get a breach before we start to flip into the other direction. Along with that, starting to see, I think of the best way to say it, starting to see if there's any latent opportunity that's setting up on these pullbacks. Because remember, it's one of those evaluations of sentiment and price. And I usually use this example whenever we're talking intraday trading, but oftentimes the idea of a market setting up at the same price, but in a different context, will change the bias of traders. Some people call it like trading on the right side of the V, or just being with the momentum at the time it's occurring, because it tends to be a little bit easier. You're kind of riding a different group of participants as opposed to trying to reassess if they're going to defend your position. This often comes in the form of backtesting. Usually, when we talk about large structures being reevaluated, we often need new market participants and sort of new setups because we can't really anticipate the same type of movement as we did before. For example, if I were to look at this chart here and say that once the S&P cleared the 200 MA, there was more momentum to the upside. That was true. And we know that to be true because we have the data. At the very least, buying the 200 MA during this period was a benefit. It had additional upside, and for the most part, it was a short-term long. When you look at that same evaluation and the same prices on the S&P at this point, the question is, are you still bullish? It's the same exact price, but obviously the context of the chart changes what we might think could happen in the future. And for the most part, we're now fighting downside momentum, even if it is short term, you know, not necessarily going to be advantageous. So what's so interesting about markets is this is kind of how technical trading works in a lot of sense. Usually some of the best opportunities lie in the fact that the market sentiment is not quite aligned to your thesis. So for example, when the market is the most bearish and some of the volatility is the highest, that tends to be, from a price perspective, the best risk to reward. You might not see it at that moment, or you might not know the potential of that opportunity, but in the longer view of how markets tend to cycle, it often tends to be an inflection. And it's usually just because everyone is focused on one side of the trade, which can often lead to bounces, reverberation, return to the mean sort of price evaluation. So I look at this as both a signal to stay away from thinking long until we see new participation step up to the plate. But I also evaluate it as, am I truly super bearish yet? Because have we really lost anything? And for the most part, we're losing some altitude, but are we truly seeing breaches, downside trends getting completely lost? And for the most part, losing the MAs from the top side. This would, of course, establish a pretty significant island of trapped bulls if we were to start selling through the 200. So, for the most part, yesterday was interesting. I wasn't necessarily looking downside until we started to crack some of those ranges. And that kind of started early, but it did require some of the news to trigger the turnaround. I also wanted to show that there's a couple of stocks that had to gap fill yesterday, which isn't necessarily super relevant for today's trade, but there was a lot of momentum to fight in the morning. Whether you were looking at Tesla, back testing its previous day close, which was way up here. We had NVIDIA trading in a similar fashion, back testing previous day close, which was somewhere around this price level. You can see that there was a lot of sharp reverberation in the market, which of course we had to lose in order to see a lot of the weakness kind of filter in to these names. And the rest of the market, not necessarily as weak or not necessarily as counter trend as those types of stocks, but the weakness was showing in other sectors before we saw the market turn. Financials, for example, had a 5-minute orb. So that one just kind of started selling in the morning. And the discretionary sector, if we didn't necessarily have Tesla moving to the upside, Home Depot was the anchor for that. The selling really started in Home Depot once we lost, the 5-minute lows. And that, of course, triggered a downtrend. So a lot of this kind of came slowly, but then surely once we, started selling, everything fell into alignment over time. The bounces were pretty poor yesterday. I will kind of note that being a reversal trader yesterday was more about opportunistic entry. It wasn't the easiest thing to look for. And as far as the news that took place yesterday, we did have the S&P Global Composite PMI. So that was kind of the kickoff of a lot of the selling volume. At least from the charts perspective, that's when the selling really started. So as far as today's concerned, be on the lookout for one particular piece of news, which is the FOMC minutes. This is, once again, it's a 2-week cycle from the previous FOMC statement and press conference, the actual meeting notes being released. These are going to be the full summary of what was covered in those meetings, and it's sort of your final synopsis of what occurred into that release. So one way you can view this information, if you go to the Federal Reserve's website, the one from January and February is the one that we're going to be looking for today. You'll notice the statement and the press conference have their links. The thing that we're missing is the minutes. So yeah, every other meeting, of course, has their minutes posted. And if you've never looked at these before, they're a bit dry, but overall, they're going to summarize exactly what was covered, some of the larger topics of discussion in the meeting and what's driving some of their decisions, along with the, I'll go to the bottom, you'll see a lot of the bullet point notes that have already been covered, but you'll get a lot more context. So what the actual rate hike was, what are their decisions with MBS and treasuries, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of the same kind of information, but it needs to be reiterated every time. So how does the recent inflation data affect the weight given to the FOMC minutes? The FOMC minutes are set in stone at this point. So any data that we've received from the previous FOMC statement to now doesn't change the minutes. Those minutes are already locked in. What it does do is it affects the future potential probability and some of the tone that we're hearing from Fed chair, meetings or minutes, anyone who's talking throughout the week, along with, it changes how the market views these probabilities. So, data coming out after the meeting is for the future. What we're getting here is historical, but it gives us more context. Sometimes the minutes do have a slight effect on the market because we can start to evaluate the tone of some of the other Fed chair representatives, and that tone can start to concrete itself in the minutes themselves. But it's nominal at best. For example, if you're asking about like recent data, the probability for the next meeting in regards to what they're looking to raise the Fed fund rate to, right now it's sitting at about 80% that we're going to get another 25-point rate hike. There's a 20% probability that we're going to get a 50-point rate hike. What does that mean recently, and has it changed recently? If you pull up compare on this tool, this is the tool that I recommend most people kind of use for looking at this data. Has it changed significantly in the past day? Which you can see there was maybe like a change higher, a couple percentage points higher to 25-point rate hike, just this difference in probability. But has it changed significantly over the week? And the answer is yes. There was a point last week, if we're looking at these probabilities, where the market was fairly heavily leaning on another 25-point rate hike. Over the past week, we've gotten a little bit more data, and that probability has shifted down. Not significantly, but 10% is 10%. I mean, depending on how you view it, that's still a 10% drop, probability-wise. It also means that the probability of a 50-point rate hike has gone up double, you know, from 12% to 24%, that's double. So some of that gets priced into the equities market, and things like the bond market is trying to always kind of lead what the Fed is looking to do. We're seeing some pretty steep rate increases on the 10-year right now. So, for the most part, we're seeing these effects early, and then, it gets priced in to the market. So, this is how trading kind of works in the big picture. We're trying to kind of find those signals early. Where do we expect inflection, and taking the trade? For example, one of the easy inflection points are moving averages. You can notice that as steep as that decline was last year in the 10-year interest rate, the 200-day moving average held. So this still trades like a technical chart, and the bond market, of course, started to see an increase or a decline in the bond pricing. So, just simple evaluation here, but taking trades often comes from this type of evaluation. TLT couldn't go to 200. So you note that. You note that we're not in a longer term uptrend. We're just in a correction. So with all that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here. So trade safe, everybody. Stay tuned for pre-market prep. I think tomorrow we'll probably look at some of the after effects of yesterday and today's trade. I'll also be looking to see has there been any notable shifts in the option market in regards to further downside. And that, once again, can be opportunistic if we're just kind of following the money. I would also like to evaluate maybe some strategy that can be highly advantageous in a market like this. Being defined risk in this market makes a lot of sense simply because of the volatility that we're seeing, and it doesn't matter. I think overall there's a bull case and a bear case for everything, but kind of staying within your lane and deploying the right strategy can really help out in the cases where not only you're right, but what if you're wrong significantly? That's where things can really kind of save you with some of that risk definition and taking the appropriate trade for the appropriate structure. So with all that said, we'll talk more tomorrow, and as always, trade safe.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to PreMarket Prep. I hope you're having an amazing morning. Hopefully, you had an incredible day yesterday. Good morning, Peter. How you doing today, my friend?
Good morning, Carlos. I'm doing okay. A little bit of lack of sleep today, but we'll push through. How about you? How are you doing?
Doing good, my friend. Some lack of sleep here as well, but what else is new when you have little ones,
Yeah, you got
right?
a legitimate
Yeah.
reason because you have young children. I got no excuse on that front because
Yes.
mine
Yes.
are not even in the house.
They could give you other reasons why you can't fall asleep that might be a little bit bigger than
Oh,
than
I
what I
guess we're
deal
even
with.
past that age where I'm worried about them being out. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, we got some interesting stuff going on in the markets today. So
Yeah, a lot of fun stuff happening, guys. Get a thumbs up for Jared engineering the markets every single morning, 8 a.m. to around 8:30 or so every Monday through Thursday, which is again thinking of this short week already Wednesday, 2 more days
I
to go,
know.
but a big day today. A lot going on. Our gappers list is looking very nice today so far, and we also had a very exciting day yesterday, guys. If you take a look at some of the stuff that was in play, let's start here with JD. A lot of the Chinese tickers were gapping down huge yesterday. I see some of them are bouncing back this morning, so there might be some opportunities there if they did have an overreaction yesterday. How about Walmart yesterday? That was interesting. This thing had gap down even lower than this, right? This is the open gap down lower, and basically recover and then some during the market hours. So pretty interesting there. They had the results. If you guys remember correctly, they had good market result. I mean, quarterly results. There we go. Let me see if I could talk this morning. See, that's what happens. Let's chat a little bit here. We got a little bit of time. That's what happens when you have a poor sleep, right? You can't barely talk
Can't
properly,
talk
and
properly.
you can probably barely trade properly. So getting sleep, guys, is very very important, especially as you start getting a little bit older. All right, let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go in here. Let's look at Walmart 5 minute, right? Let's jump in here and show you guys what we had. Very, very active pre-market after earnings. Look at the drop. We got all the way to 139. Market open, we opened around 143 and we ended right where we left off at 148. So pretty interesting there. I don't think Walmart's going to be a good one going forward. It just might come back to its regular trading, which is not great, by the way. Usually, we don't see great moves out of Walmart unless we have earnings. I mean, I think you would agree with that as well, Peter. Not sure that
Yeah.
has anything left for right now, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see this all the time with Walmart where it'll
Yeah.
do this gap pre-market. As we mentioned yesterday, pre-market, they had decent earnings, but they were down on their guidance was a little lower, and we saw the market react to that pre-market as it dropped significantly. But then once the market opened, it came, like you said, right back to that exact same level it started at. Now, this is a NYSE stock, which just means it trades a little bit differently, and the market makers have a greater influence on the trade. I find NYSE stocks tend to have this, Walmart especially, where if they've got an opinion as to where the price should be, I mean that's where it came back to, and that's where it's going to stay. So yeah, I don't expect much out of it today, but interesting to see that like over and over again, that type of pattern.
Yeah, yeah, 100% agree. Going back to what we have here yesterday, guys, we also had Baba on deck. So if we look at Baba here, this one didn't do a whole lot. Hold on a second. In the pre-market, you can see here it's pretty much flat. And this is typical Baba, JD, PDD, does nothing in the pre-market. They gap down, they go sideways for a while. But then if you look at the market open, look at the trade
Hmm.
they had here, guys. This was real, real nice. So give you a fake out, could not stay above the VWAP. This is important. I'm not sure if you consider this a mountain pass. Probably too early
Too
to
early,
do
yeah.
so. Yeah, too early. But here cannot make a new high, right? Towards the high of the day there. Goes back below the VWAP, breaks down certain lows we have here at 96.50, and just look at all the way down to the the low of the day there and continue. So again, a great trade yesterday. This is the one I took advantage of, and they have earnings tonight, guys, after hours. So that's gonna be. Is it tonight? No, it's Thursday. I'm all screwed up with the day. So it's Wednesday. It's tomorrow. So we got one more day to wait. Okay, we'll be patient, but I'm looking forward to that. Analysts are already talking about it being if they're gonna surprise the market again this time around. So we will see. Um, Another one on our list is Tesla. Again, Tesla's doing its normal Tesla stuff. You can see the beautiful breakout here. Nice opening range, 5 minute there. And then it went flat for middle of the morning and then did very, very well here. Peter, what did you trade yesterday? Anyone on this list here?
Well, right after we finished the pre-market show, I had to run out to go to a medical appointment. Didn't get back till a little bit afternoon, and by then all the fun had sort of finished. So
Yeah,
I wasn't seeing a lot moving early in the afternoon. But one of the things that we teach in the Bear Bulls trading room is about how to trade all day, but make sure you always follow your strategy. So I had one trade on the day, and my one trade followed what I call my 1 to 10 strategy, which happens every day at 3:50. If you're interested in it, we can talk about it, but it was on Apple. It doesn't look like much of a trade, but it followed my rules. Mike actually took it with me as well. We both got sort of a great move on it. The great thing about that trade is because the risk is so much lower, your risk to reward is absolutely fantastic. So it happens exactly at 350 every time. I basically took a long on Apple when we saw the pullback based on volume that happens exactly at that moment. And, I won one trade to rule them all, but you just need one, right? But
That's
and
all
again,
you
it wasn't a
need.
massive trade. You look at the movement at that point in time; it's nothing compared to the drop Apple got. But I got a great risk to reward, and again, and a great result. So I know a
Yeah.
lot of our members are now sort of looking for those types of trades as well. So great things that when you're in the room that you get other people who can help sort of watch the markets for you. Many eyes give you an opportunity to see so much more.
Yep, absolutely. Jack Cat over on YouTube is asking, what is the 1 to 10 strategy? Guess what? We're gonna
Well,
tell you at the end of the show, so you stick around. How about that, right? Little
a
situation,
little
little
teaser
contract
there.
situation there. Yeah. So let's see here. Here's Amazon. So Amazon, again, I didn't really watch the price action, so I'm looking at the after the fact now. Looked a little choppy here with these wicks, so maybe that could have been a little bit tough to trade. I don't see it being a great trade. Yes, they did trend down, but you need to have had a really good entry because look at these pullbacks. They're very, very aggressive on some of these candles. So that was Amazon. And here's Coin. Coin's been very active, especially with everything going on in Bitcoin. It took a bit of a hit yesterday, try to recover. And this was a tough trader. I actually looked at it to try to get an opportunity. I just can't seem to find a good entry on this thing. It turned out to be a good 5 minute, right? It didn't run too much, but I don't know. It's just either I don't trust it. I don't know what it is, but it's difficult for me to get in a tray on a coin. And Kawakaki is saying that the spread on coin kills me. Yeah, that's another thing too. The spread for a $62 stock can be a little bit too wide. I mean, even 11 cents now. It's pre-market. It'll get better, but I've seen it do some nasty stuff. Our gappers list, a quick look, and then we'll go over to our market news. At the moment, we got a bit of stuff on here. I did mention earlier there are some Chinese tickers that are gapping up this morning. IQ, Baidu. I saw some other ones here as well. I don't see them now. Maybe they dropped below, but we'll see. A lot of the stuff was really extended, but if you look at Baidu and IQ, they're up 10% and 7.2 respectively. So we will dive into that and see what's happening there. But first, let's head over to our market pulse and see what's happening there.
Yeah, so this morning we've got a mixed morning on the markets. If I look at, we'll start international maybe today with international news. We've got the Dow Jones, the S&P, the North American markets basically all slightly up. The international markets generally are down. There was some news out of Japan about them having an emergency bond buying activity because, it's funny because in North America we are trying to actually cause inflation because we want to calm the markets. So
Yeah.
interest rates are going up, and the FOMC has been working hard on that. In Japan, they're trying to spur growth, so they're moving in the opposite direction with their economy. That being said, if we look back here in North America, the one thing I put on the economic calendar for today is the FOMC minutes coming out at 2:00. Shouldn't be any surprises, really. But as Jared was pointing out this morning on Engineering the Markets, we do have a shift of perspective in terms of are we going to get a 0.25 or 0.5% interest rate hike? There's more sentiment moving towards the 0.5% increase, which we've seen sort of reflected in the markets over the last couple of days. And with some of the Fed speakers we saw saw last week. So with those minutes coming out again, in theory, there shouldn't be any surprises, but we normally see sort of a blip in the market. Now, will the market drop heavily and come right back to where it started? Will it pop up and drop down? Usually it's one of those two, frankly, and then it picks a direction to move, but we don't know which one. So if you're, just be aware of that. And if you're in a trade at 2:00, just make sure you're very, very active there, waiting to see what's going to happen. Because if that trade moves heavily against you, you're going to have to make some quick decisions. If you're not in a trade and you're looking at one somewhere between 1:30 and 2, I would suggest be very cautious in that trade, because there's going to be that singular event when the computers all react to the minutes when they come out. And usually that's what happens, right? The move happens extraordinarily quickly because the computers are reacting very quickly and executing trades based on whatever they're reading within the minute release. So just be aware of that item. And as Carlos mentioned, we do have a fair amount of earnings. Earnings continues with more of the retail sector. We'll talk about a couple of those that are hitting our gappers list. It's interesting that we're not going to talk about most of the earnings today, frankly, because most of them aren't causing either the volume or the percentage move that you would expect. So not a lot of big day trading stocks that are in the earnings, but still a few things to keep an eye on.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things you want to look out for is which way does our friend have his tie. The way he walks out, that's going to determine a lot on this FOMC minutes on how the market is going to react. So look out for the color of his tie. That is very, very important. With that said, let's jump, guys, into our gappers list today. So far on here, we got a couple of things in the green, a couple in the red. These names don't look so hot on the red side of things, but let's dive in and see what's moving this morning that we might like. Let's go ahead and remove the stuff. Control A, Control X. Let's take a look at that. All right, and that clears that up. And let's bring in the first one on the gap up list is Pan W. So Pan W Palo Alto. This is gapping up 9%, 343,000 shares traded. I know this is one I usually stay away from. I believe it's foreign. I believe it doesn't trade very well. Little lighter on volume, but today, Peter, we got a nice little gap up.
No, they're out of California, so they are North
they are.
American.
Okay.
Competitor to Cisco and some of the other, networking gear equipment companies. Yeah. They did have earnings. They beat their numbers and actually increased their guidance. So that's why we're seeing them gap up. As you pointed out, they are one of the worst traders in this sector. Mm-hmm. So I don't normally keep a close eye on them, but maybe today is their day. The pre-market sort of looks okay, but not great, honestly. And at the very best, I would put it as a secondary on my own list.
Yeah, that is probably as far as they're going to get on my list as well. For now, their spread is not bad, actually, for the way this looks. It looks really bad as far as the numbers and this pre-market activity. But I'm surprised the spread is still staying really tight there for a $183 stock with the volume that it has. So maybe today, like you said, maybe they have an opportunity. I love these gap ups like this on stocks that are not great, because usually you can get an overreaction and they'll come back to 170. But we'll see. We will see. That's Pan W there, up 10%. Here's IQ. IQ is up 10% as well with decent volume, 1.7 million shares traded. We all know Chinese stocks took a hit yesterday. This was bouncing back a little bit today. Great pre-market activity. I haven't traded IQ in such a long time. I don't even know how they're trading now. Peter, what's your take on this one for today and news?
I used to love trading IQ. In fact, I think in a couple of my webinars, I talk about IQ and have some examples of some trades of it. But you're right. I mean, that was a couple of years ago now. Haven't really traded them. So they are. I actually don't even know if their earnings have been released. They are supposed to be released this morning. If we go to tradingterminal.com, you can see it's one of the companies listed in there. Anyways, but oh no, their numbers are out. They did. Let's see. They beat on both top and bottom line, so that's why we're seeing them on the gap up list this morning.
Right, that makes sense to have them there today. Yeah, we haven't seen these guys in a while. Maybe a possible today. I mean, I like the volume on this thing, up 10%, lower price at $8. I mean, IQ at $8, man, hit $2 in October, $1.62 maybe. Wow, who would have thought? Maybe again, the price and everything else, not that interesting, but I do like the gap up and the volume this morning. So let's see what's happening there. Also, the day looking very very good as far as kind of slamming against some areas of recent resistance. And the run this thing has been from $1.60 to $8. It's pretty impressive, I guess. TCBP. This is one that we've seen plenty of times on our list. I stay away from this one. It's a horrible trading ticker. TC Biopharm. Peter, unless you have something worth watching, I'm gonna just move on down.
Definitely no. I
Move
do
on
not.
down. All right, here we
Yep.
go.
Keep moving.
Here's Baidu, guys. So Baidu right now up 6.7, 421,000. Again, this one's been a little more active since in February. You can see here how wide these body on the candles are, so that's good for us. Shows a lot of movement. Some days with some decent volume, others not so much. Today they're gapping up 6.7, so maybe something on the stove you're cooking for Baidu. What do we have for them?
Yeah, they did. So the only real news is they announced a share buyback, not a big one, only $5 million worth. But I think the thing that's moving it would be, I call it not real news because this is the bandwagon jumping. Oh my God, they're going to produce an AI bot like ChatGPT. So this
Go
is what
figure.
when the frenzy starts, this is what we start to see happening. So get ready for more of these, right? We even saw it with some of the majors, like when Microsoft was under pressure and they're saying, yeah, don't worry, we're working on our AI and it's working well too. And we saw the same thing out of Google. You're going to see a lot of the small companies now jump in with these announcements that say, yes, we're working on AI. We're going to have a bot that's going to beat Chat GPT and be even smarter and better and whatever, right? It doesn't matter. They're going to make an announcement. They may never produce anything. We see this over and over again in the market cycle. So I look, I'm not trying to malign Baidu. Maybe they've got a great thing and they will build it, but they've made the announcement, which I think is reacting, which is why the stock is reacting.
Yeah, agree 100%. So maybe a possible. Are we thinking that? I mean, it
They
has the
do move well
opportunity.
sometimes. They really can. They can get volume. So I'm being called a maligner. Maligner. um, People are saying they had earnings. I don't know if they actually
uh,
had earnings. I'm not
did
seeing
they?
that
Let's head over to trading terminal and see what's
Oh
going
yeah,
on.
they did
Peter.
have earnings this morning. So yeah, they beat their numbers as well. So there you go. I guess that's also probably part of the part of the effect. I should have mentioned that.
Yes. So Alibaba's tomorrow. That's the one I'm looking forward to. Oh, before the open. I'm always thinking these big companies are after, but obviously they're foreign. So before the open, we'll have earnings. That's gonna be fun there, guys. And Nvidia after the close tomorrow. Today, excuse me, I'm all over the place because of this day here. But Nvidia today. I mean, we could barely remember our days when we don't have a holiday. When we have a holiday, it just kind of,
It's amazing how just that Monday off, it does the same thing to me, Carlos. It messes with
yeah,
your head all week, and it's
yeah,
not like it's not like you think it's a day behind. I just can't figure out what day it is. Like sometimes, like you said, is it Thursday? Is it Tuesday? Is it Friday? Like
yeah.
I don't even know what day it is.
I'll tell you this much. It didn't happen when I was working a 9 to 5. You knew exactly what days they were. This is a trading problem. That seems to be the situation here. All right, so let's go in here. We do have a Baidu. I'm going to put that as a possible. Again, as you mentioned, they can trade well depending on the situation there. Some other ones on here. We have FMS. FMS not looking all that great. Very light on volume for the type of move that they're getting. So that's a little bit concerning. And look at the chart on this thing, man. 3.7 is the highest they've done. That was yesterday. So obviously something going on there. But other than that, what is this? 200,000? I mean, this is garbage volume for what we're trying to do here. So what any news on this?
This is a German medical company, fairly big float. I mean, I do see some news, but it's more like structural news. So their CEO is saying that they're changing their business strategy. I think they did have earnings, but I don't actually see the earnings outcome, the earnings result. So I presume, based on where they are on the list, that it was positive. But so again, I don't think I've ever considered trading this.
Yeah, same here. AMC, what's going on with AMC? I always think about these AMC. I think about memes right away. Memeing stock, and this is up 4.9 with 1.8 million shares
Wow.
traded.
Yeah, I
So
got some volume this morning.
yeah, decent volume. I just don't trust it at all. So again, I just don't know about this one. So, but if it's your style to look at these memeing stocks and you know how to trade very well, you can just be mindful of your share size. I know it's not a low flow sitting at 515 million, but it can trade like one as we've seen plenty of times. So, um, again, not too exciting for me yet. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean their earnings aren't for another week or their next week anyways. I don't know. I mean the Ant-Man sequel is the biggest movie, so the actual business news coming out. They had a pretty good opening weekend, although the results might have been less than what some people were expecting. That movie has very mixed reviews. Anyways, AMC. I don't. Maybe they're announcing a new flavor of popcorn. I don't know. It's
Movie
tough.
it has become a tough business, man. To get up and get into a theater, that is a business you probably don't
Yeah,
want to be in for too long. I just don't see how it gets better. I just don't see it. But
especially every time I have to admit, every time I've gone to a movie in the last couple of years,
yeah,
I do it. Usually, it's a social thing, right? You go with
yeah.
some friends, but then you're like, I don't understand, right? I can't pause it for bathroom breaks. The food is worse and more
Oh,
expensive.
don't
The
get food
floor is
there.
sticky.
Hmm.
It's much more comfortable in my own house. Why do I want to go somewhere to watch a movie?
Yeah, I only go there when my 9-year-old wants to watch something that's out there. Other than that, I'm not stepping in there. And the service is horrible. I mean, nothing
Yeah.
against young kids, but you got these younger kids that are just don't give a crap about you, and they're just whatever. Here it is. It's just no. I'm not paying for this crappy service. No way. Stay in my house. I can serve my own popcorn. All right. Here's
Need to
GNS,
go.
guys. Huh?
Shauna thinks we both need to go on more dates, apparently, because then we'd be out of the
No,
movies more often.
we
So
we prefer to go to fine dining if we're going to go out on dates, right? That's more
that's
enjoyable.
right.
And actually, listen, me and my wife don't get to talk as much with the kids and the back and forth, and her being at work. I don't want to sit in a movie theater and not talk. I want to go to dinner and catch up on the last 3 months, if I can. Here's GNS, guys. GNS is a horrible trading ticker. So for the most part, it's not looking all that great right now. We always skip this one. Here is AA, which is Alcoa, which doesn't trade very well. So I'm always keeping this off the list. So that's what we have for the gap up. One more, UNP sounds like a Union Pacific and just a block trade of 977,000. But outside of that, nothing really to see here. And this is a horrible trader, by the way. So you want to stay away from this one. All right, let's see what's gapping down this morning. We have SIP. I didn't want to read the
I,
comments. I'm
I'm
just
just
gonna
reading
keep.
all the comments in the
I'm just gonna
chat room,
keep
and it's
on
making
going.
me laugh. And it also makes me realize maybe we're at a certain place in life because like I'm closer to like flying my wife to New York to watch the opera than I am going to a movie for a date.
10 times.
So
10 times. Hey, listen, and you could pay for the ticket with probably about 5 visits to the movie theater if you get drinks and you get everything else.
that's
It's only five
that's true.
visits, so
That's true.
it's
Like
yeah,
used to be opera was the big fancy expensive thing. I'm telling you, like last time I went, you buy popcorn, a drink, and a snack, and the cost of the movie. It's the same.
yeah, yeah. Once in a while, I do treat my daughter to some McDonald's, and I went the other day and got her a Happy Meal and all this other stuff. And it was $15. I'm like, what? How is this one meal $15? It's just crazy that the cost, if you get a McFlurry and everything else involved, it's just wild. Um, all right, guys, hit that thumbs up over on YouTube if you're enjoying the content and also our pre-market prep this morning. What are we sitting at today? We're sitting at 115 likes. We'd love to get up to 250 plus. That helps us quite a bit here to continue this show live on YouTube. SIB is a horrible ticker. We'll skip on that. Let's move down to AU, which is another horrible one as well. This is gold, actually, right? This is not really something that.
It's actually a gold
Yeah,
mining company
right, right.
out of South Africa, Anglo Gold Ashanti.
Yeah.
So a merger of a few companies, as happens in this area. Again, I usually ignore them when they come up. Again, mining. Remember we talked about this the other day. Mining companies just in general, for whatever reason, don't trade well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Tanda says Peter and Carlos are making that baller money. You know what? It's not about how much you make no more. It's how much you're keeping. That is really the problem. You can make more if you're spending it. It's how much are you actually keeping in your bank. That's the important thing there. So AU is no good. TJ Maxx probably earnings because we never see this retailer on deck. Down 2.5 this morning.
Yeah, they had earnings just this morning, in fact. I've been waiting to sort of see the results because I haven't seen it post, but I think they beat their expectations on and same store sales. Wow, some alliteration there, if I can say it. Also beat the expectations. So a little bit of good news on TJ Maxx. That being said, it's in a sector that's really tough. Usually they look forward to what's being expected. I don't have any forecast numbers, so I'm not exactly sure where they're gapping down, but I sort of expected out of the sector. Again, TJ Maxx is in that NYSE. It's a NYSE stock, which means that it just, in my mind, it can do unexpected things. And we've seen this, with a lot of these. Just because the news is good doesn't necessarily mean they're going to gap up. Look at Walmart yesterday. They sort of bucked the trend as to what their news said and what the stock actually did.
Yeah.
Was it a weak outlook? All right, I'm getting reports that it's a weak outlook. So there you go. That's why they're dropping.
Okay. Either way, these retailers are tough to trade. So I'm not a big fan of TJ Maxx here. All right, we are one last one on the gap down list is JHX, and this looks like just a block trade. Someone made a mistake here, bought 200,000 shares. They didn't mean to do that. This thing is not in play. Let's take a look at what you guys like this morning. Peter, starting with you, what is on your list today? And someone just called out. There's nothing on my main list right now. Just notice that.
Yeah.
We went through how many tickers here? And nothing was good. Ooh.
Nothing stuck. I will mention coin. I see Susan mentioning in the room, but that was the one thing that was going to be on my list anyways. If you remember, it had earnings after the close. We were looking for that in the room at the close, and they did obviously announce they beat their numbers, but had relatively low guidance. Overnight, you can see they didn't actually do a heck of a lot. They sort of had a bunch of jumping around right at the close. Massive, there's one massive. Look at that, a 5-minute chart, right? Look at the wicks on that thing, and yet it sort of ended right where it started. So, I don't know if that means much for coin today, but just know that there was some news against Coinbase after the market close.
I think it's worth taking a look at today. Again, coin can trade very well. Got to be careful with the spread at times, but we've seen it trade well in the past. Lately, we have not seen that happen, though. I got to say, we probably had one day. Just look out for the spread on this thing, and let's see if we can get something today, some volume and some momentum one way or the other here. So we'll add it to our list. Might not stay there for long, depending on what else you guys put out here. But I see. Let's look at our Apple. I see Apple being also mentioned here, and Apple. I think Apple this morning with our usual suspects list, right? Apple, probably Nvidia. Yeah, see it all looking the same there, getting above the previous day close. AMD, same situation, not as nicer volume than the last two we just saw. So we will pick our favorites from there. Tesla also doing the exact same thing as these other ones. But we are going to add Tesla to our list, right? So Tesla will be on here. And then we also... between AMD and NVIDIA, I'm going to go with NVIDIA today just because they have earnings after hours. So although usually the plays no, I'm sorry, I keep saying after hours. I'm so excited for NVIDIA earnings today, but it's tomorrow. Guys, NVIDIA earnings is tomorrow. So we'll definitely be in play then, but this is a ticker that even tomorrow that they have their earnings after hours tomorrow on Thursday, they can still be in play, right? Because it's just such a popular, heavily traded ticker. We can find some opportunities here. So I'll keep NVIDIA there, Amazon as a possible for AMD as a possible for now.
I think we're still getting all mixed up here because NVIDIA earnings should be after the close today.
Is it today?
It is today.
Yes, it is today. This damn Monday, I'm telling you, man. It's unbelievable.
See, I tell you, that one day off, it just screws everything
throws
up,
you off, man. It is Wednesday. That's right. It's not even Tuesday today. No, man, I cannot drink no more coffee. I already had a nice cup of coffee. All right, excellent. So NVIDIA is good. We're there. AMD is good as well. What else we have, guys? What else you guys like over on YouTube? What do you guys like this morning? INTC, what did they have earnings today? They did because they're moving like they normally wouldn't, or some heavy news, but definitely they have something going on here. 1.9 million shares traded. Big day yesterday too, going into Was it earnings today on AI and TC? I didn't see them.
No, they did have some big news. They
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they basically released a relatively low profit outlook, and they
Mm-hmm.
slashed their dividend by about 2/3. So that's why the reaction is,
Wow.
because if you were in this for the dividend, or your potential earnings at the dividend release date is now cut by 2/3. So
Yeah.
this we could see a lot of sort of funds and a lot of people getting out of this stock and moving their money elsewhere because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, interesting. I'm not sure how this is gonna trade. Again, this is a very horrible
I
ticker,
always
you
find
know.
Intel so tough. Of
It is
all of the
choppy.
semiconductors, Intel and Applied Materials are the two toughest for me. And Intel is one of those ones where it suckers me in all the time,
Right.
where I watch it, I think it's going to be great, and then it either does something unexpected or it does nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's, like right now, this would be something we would put on our list, but then you put it on there, then market open, it just completely disappoints you. So I don't know. Possible because I know some of you guys will be watching it. If we see something great, let me know. And I remember last time we traded this. Well, I wasn't trading it, but Andrew was, and it was just so choppy. And I'm just like, stay away from it. It's like a Foot Locker type ticker. So you only see them once in a while, and they're just horrible. We'll put it as a possible for now. We see what we can get out of this one. What else, guys? Nvidia is good. We have that. Baba is tomorrow. So we have Baba today. No, we haven't looked at Baba earnings tomorrow morning. Baba, it doesn't look great today, guys. Not really gapping up much. Not heavy volume. I think I'll wait for tomorrow on this one. So not a whole lot going on there. And I see Oxy on both sides of the field here, especially over on YouTube. Let's take a look at Oxy. I know energy plays. Jerry was talking about this earlier, so there might be some opportunities there today as well. Oxy could be a good one. I'm not seeing anything all that great right now. But for the most part, we all know how Oxy can be at the pre-market. It doesn't give you a whole lot to really go on. All right.
We've Yeah, and just on Oxy, we've talked about the Buffett effect, the Berkshire Hathaway effect. There's some rumors about them putting more money into the energy sector, specifically into Oxy or Occidental Petroleum. So that's I think partly what's causing some of the movement here today.
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys, let's get to our community events and announcement for this short week and next and see what we got going on there.
Yeah, so we got to keep in mind it is already Wednesday, which means hump day, as we like to call it, right? Midweek. And you got to keep that in mind. So last night, Thor did a fantastic webinar, as always, on a Camarillo pivot point. So thank you, Thor, for such a fantastic session for all of our members. That will be posted into the Education Center today if it's not already there. And then tonight, we get to enjoy, and yesterday I got this wrong, but it is tonight. Randy, revised agenda, sort of new material. Randy actually has a great insight on the market. He has been doing this for a very long time, both on his own and then supporting professional traders across the industry. We're lucky to have him talking with us. He'll be at 8 o'clock once again in the webinar room, talking about the connection between sort of how trading works. And people always like to talk about trading, financial performance on investing, and then gambling. What's the differences? How do they mirror each other? And how can you take advantage of that? So it should be a good webinar. We look forward to hearing from Mr. Howell always. Again, 8 o'clock in the webinar room. The last thing then that we do this week for our special events is on Thursdays when we have our mentorship day. 11 o'clock during market hours, John will do his mentorship in the webinar room, and then Thor will be back with us for the second time this week doing his mentorship session in the evening. Now, I should say, Thor's with us every day. 1 o'clock, he's in the room sharing his trades from the morning, and often, frankly, taking another fantastic trade while he's live with our members in the room. So, but he'll be doing that mentorship on a Thursday night. As we keep mentioning, I really want to make sure that you have access to the best possible tools out there. And as a community, we've invested heavily in Trading Terminal, which is sort of the one-stop shop. As we do the pre-market show, I'm flipping through it all the time to find the latest news. When Carlos calls out something, I go to the news tab and I'm able to sort of type in the ticker and it tells me everything that's happening. We got the Insider that we were just being showed, which has some great information about what's sort of moving, what's trending. You've got information on the scanners that we use to actively determine not only our gappers list up and down, but live throughout the day. We've got all sorts of different scanners in there that you can sort of move around and customize on your own to help you monitor the market. And then some fantastic sections: our live simulator, our academy, where you can get training material, the calendar, where we get IPOs and news events, and of course the earnings releases. Just check it out. There's a ton of material in there, totally free. There is no commitment. We will not spam you with information. We do ask you to register just so we can keep your preferences in the tool, and then every time you call it up, they will be there for you. For the my God, I can't talk. For the bear bull traders side, not only do we have our live chat every day, but we like to meet people live. So San Diego is coming up very, very fast. Even if we can't remember the day here, I definitely remember that next week I'm going to be flying into San Diego, like a lot of our team, to do this live trading summit on March the 2nd and 3rd. It will be March next week. Oh my goodness. But hopefully you will join us if you've already signed up. Really look forward to meeting with you. We have 2 days of not only live trading, but educational material, psychology, entertainment. We got social activities, which are always a big part of these meetups. So it's a great session. Hopefully we'll see you there. And then in the chat room, if you wanted to join us, as always, right, you can join us as an intro membership, join us on a monthly basis, or make the commitment to an annual membership. You get a big discount, and you're going to get value all year out of it. So hopefully we'll see you. You sign up and subscribe, and if you're just on the YouTube and this is providing value to you, give us a thumbs up, because we love sharing sort of our perspective on the market each morning with you. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of insight to what's happening. And for us, we do it because it sets us up for the day, right? It gives us some insight as to where we're going. As you see, Carlos, we make this list not just for you. We make it for our own trading, and we literally do trade off of it. So we'll keep this up, and we'll keep going for you. So give us an old thumbs up, and we'll continue to set some levels here.
Yep, absolutely. Sitting at 192 likes, which is great. We're almost there to 250. Looking forward to that. We should make that the go every day. Let's see if we can get that. All right, guys. My list right now, pretty I don't know, not a blockbuster list at the moment. And
Yeah,
I think,
and I actually sort of
yeah,
like these days. I don't mind days where there's not a lot on the list, because I'm
yep,
not a big open trader. It allows me to scan the market, see what's happening.
right,
But
right.
and it could end up being a great day. It all depends on your strategy. So, but hey, we'll set some levels. Maybe we'll find some diamonds in the rough that will get us
Diamonds in
excited.
the rough. I agree.
Diamonds in the rough. I always,
That makes
what
sense.
we
Yeah.
all. I think I always relate to movies. I always think, of course, of Aladdin every time I say that. But.
Yep. Yep. Um, let's see here. All right, excellent, guys. So we have coin right now. We have Tesla. We have Nvidia, and Nvidia's looking good. Look at Nvidia now, just hitting the high of the pre-market there, trying to push higher. So that is nice. And then we have Oxy. Oxy really got to wait for the market open to see what's going on there. So let's go ahead. Let's set some levels. Andrew's in chat, guys. Say hi to Andrew over on YouTube. He's at that tag there, Bearboot Traders. So definitely say hello. Ask him questions. He's just woke up, so ask him questions there. He's
Ask him really hard questions
ask
too.
him really hard. Don't ask him easy questions. Ask him hard questions over in YouTube chat. Let's get him really ramped up for when he comes live here. Let's look at coin here. Let's set some levels, guys. We're going to look at coin, and then we're going to remove some of the stuff we had yesterday or the day before. Low of the pre-market right now, we are sitting right here at 60.95. So we will slam a level there. And then if we look towards the bottom of that, we do have an area right around 56.04, and then down here at 53.19. I don't think we'll get there. We need a lot to push towards the low of that. but I think these levels are very, very clear on the daily. Another level that I see here might be more of a minor area of support and resistance, but I think worth noting down is going to be this 59 area. So if you look at 59, you got a couple of days opening and closing right on that area. Also, it's a good midpoint from where the price is at now to the big level 5604, heading all the way down here. So let's slam some levels there. Towards the top, guys, the only thing I need to add, I think, here is going to be our high of our pre-market, 63.88. So again, we had a big move from 61 all the way to almost 64. A nice move there. Back down to the previous day close, and now we got some sideways action happening here on the coin. So we'll see what happens there. Again, the coin not doing a whole lot right now, but they did have earnings, right? I think it was earnings this morning or last night? Last night, right?
Last night, yeah.
Last night. You can see there. We'll see if that it amounts to anything this morning. Here's Tesla, which you can't, when you look at Tesla's chart, you can't tell where's the open. Like if I was to take this out, Tesla's always moving, even after hours. You see the move here. It looks like it's open all the time. Pre-market, during the trading day, it is just an unbelievable ticker. We haven't seen a ticker like this I don't think we've seen a ticker like this actually. The way this thing moves. I was gonna say in a long time, but as I was processing, there's hasn't been anything like this. I mean, it's just incredible the amount of volatility and movement that you're getting on this thing, pre-market, after hours, during the trading day. So looking very good here. We are stuck right now between the highs and lows of the last two trading days, slamming against the previous day close. Towards the bottom here, we're going to put a level over at 189.52. And then over here at 194 as well. So 194.04. And then high of the pre-market, we're going to do 199.50. So that's a good one there. Outside of that, I think we're pretty much set. Another level you could possibly look at is 203 if we get into that area. There's not a lot on 203 though, not like these other ones, because you see how much support resistance we have on this one here. So I see Peter, you also have Tesla on your list today, which again, one of our usual suspects on here. And then you have Nvidia, which Nvidia is on my list as well. That is looking good this morning, very active so far. Earnings today after the close. Okay, so earnings today after the close. And on the low of the pre-market this morning, 204.59. And then towards the bottom of that, the big level is here. I know it's far out, but that's where the level is at, right? That's what the daily is telling us. You have the level here at 196. Towards the top, the only daily level I see that looks good is 201.65. We'll slam a level there. I think that's pretty good for the most part for Nvidia. I think you're pretty much set. Beautiful pre-market activity right now. We're seeing this on Apple as well. Where's Apple? We don't have Apple on the list. We'll put it as a possible. I'm gonna have a tight list today as well. We'll put Apple as a possible. We're seeing the exact same flow here on Apple, AMD, similar pattern at the moment, and it's because they're following probably this guy right here, the SPY, right? So just overlaying these notes right on there, they match exactly. So let's do the last one here, Oxy, and then we'll have times for some questions or anything else that we can get into. 58.70, low of the pre-market. And once you do that, you have towards the top, you're pretty much set. I'm not going to mark a whole lot on Oxy. We really need to wait for the market open to see what this thing is going to do. But for me, this is more of a possible. It's in here just to be, front and center. But for the most part, it should be a ticker on our possibles list. All right, guys, that we are set there. Peter, anything that you like on your end that maybe we haven't touched base on? Peter is on mute. Let's give a thumbs up for Peter's mic. If you can come back here. Peter is gone. We lost Peter. Let me see. And it's not on my end. Okay. All right. I cannot relive, so I cannot tell you what he's saying. So we'll continue here. Up next, let's go ahead and look at our moderators lineup, guys. See what we got going on there. I got Thor. I have Peter, and we'll see some more come up here. And then next is going to be Brian and Andrew trading live, guys. We'll see what is happening there. So let's go ahead. Let's bring that over. I'm going to refine this here. And as I'm doing this, resizing this for you, hit that thumbs up. I think we're close to 250, which is nice. So that would be great if we can get that in there. Oh, 240. Oh, we're there. We're there, guys. Thank you so much. Oh, I hear something. I hear some static. I think Peter broke his mic by slamming on the desk. Peter. Okay, so we'll see. I heard something, but then it went away. All right, today's watch list, guys. We're looking at Thor, which had an amazing webinar last night. If you're a member, if you missed it, it's going to be in the Education Center. Should be up already. Usually by noon, these things are posted pretty quickly. We have a team in the back end that does an amazing job of getting things done. So thank you guys for all the work you do. Here's Thor, Tesla, Coin, and I don't. Thor, what are these? Mesh 3 and MN. I'm afraid to type them in because Shift 3 is one of my hotkeys. So I'm not going to type that in. But what is this? These are, yeah, I'm not going to buy into, what is this? Oxy, not pre-market. But you got those there. I'm not sure what those are. Um, but yeah, we'll take a look at that later. Thor looking at adding INTC to his list. Peter has AMD, Tesla, NVIDIA, INTC, and IQ. Peter, I'm muting myself. You guys are good. There's some really good comments here in chat. Thank you guys for sticking around and having some fun with us this morning. And then secondary list INTC, IQ, and AMC. Brian's list today: Tesla, Meta, NVIDIA, and IQ. So made up of a lot of our usual suspects. As again, today is an interesting day. A lot of things are flat after the big techs got slammed down yesterday. So we'll see what that brings for us this morning. So we are all set, guys. We're going to transition over to Brian. So Brian is up next. He's going to have his screen ready to go to share with you guys. So hang around while he does that transition over, and then we can continue here, prepare for the live session at around 9:30, right? So we'll end it at 9:30. Let's see here. I see what you did. I saw it after. I saw it over on YouTube because YouTube is delayed here, so I saw it there. What you put up. Thank you, Peter, for being a sport. There it is. All trades saved. We will see you guys tomorrow. All right, I see Brian is on. Guys, thank you so much for joining the pre-market prep over on YouTube. Stay tuned for Brian as he goes through his list and what he likes this morning. Let's take a look as he prepares for the market open. We'll see you again tomorrow at 8 a.m. Engineering the markets with Jared. Oh, guys, don't forget. I want to remind you of something. Don't say bye yet, Peter. Hang with me. I want to remind you of our chat room, our brand new chat room for options. Today is Wednesday, so they'll be on today between 9 and 11 and then 12 to 1. These two guys are just straight crushing it. Both of them are amazing options trader and amazing people on top of that. So if you don't like options, just go see them because they're amazing people. So either way, it's a win-win. So take a look at them, guys. Today, they'll be on for options. Actually, they're on right now, 17 minutes in. So take care, guys, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Here's Brian.
Here's Johnny.
I knew you was gonna say that.
Good morning, people. Good morning, everybody. Peter's eating scotch. Okay. Different kind of Johnny. That was a creepy movie. I don't like Biden because it's really just it's flatlining. I mean, I did look at it. These Chinese stocks they don't trade very well. Yeah, that was the best one. Yeah, I don't trade very well. I was looking a little bit weak. Even there's really nothing that I'm super interested in right now. Everything's kind of flatlining. This is what I'd like to call a hangover day. You know, we had a big move yesterday. It was a big move to the downside, obviously. And now we get this day where it's sort of a, you want to call it a sort of repricing. Everybody's trying to figure out where the market's going to go next. Is it going to bottom or at least bounce a little bit today? Or are we going to get a continuation move? So yeah, like I said, it's kind of like you have this big party. It's either bulls or bears are partying, and now as yesterday, of course, it was the Bears partying, but now we're just trying to figure out where we're going to go from here. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to move up, but we'll see. We'll have to let the price action tell us where we're going to go. I guess Bullard was interviewed this morning. He said it wasn't quite as, I guess he wasn't quite as hawkish as I guess the market was expecting. So we got a bit of a move up here in the open. Bob is selling off. Yeah. Let's look at Intel. I looked at Intel already. It's not down that much. You know, it's gapping down, what, 17 cents? It's trading right at the View app right now. On a daily basis, it's really sold off the last couple of days, and it's down at it's down into an area where there should be some support on a daily basis. Got a level here right at sort of 24.50. What, 24.50? What is that? No, sorry, 25.50. That was right at the end of December. So we're pretty close to that 25.50 number. If anything, BABA might be interesting. Yeah, Boyle's bouncing a bit. I don't know. Natural gas has just been getting destroyed. Let's see here. Meta's actually red on the day. Interesting. All right, well, we got 7 minutes to the open, and like I said, everything's kind of just, the only thing that's really moved a bit is BABA. The indexes are flatlining. So one thing I like to do is take some time, put the levels, put some horizontal lines on my on a Qs and SPY chart, just marking where high of the pre-market and low of the pre-market is, because those are often levels that if we do break and start to trend, they'll be breaking out of that pre-market range. Yeah, I looked at Baidu. It's not doing anything. It's doing nothing. At the very least, you can say BABA's like trending down. I guess you could watch Baidu, but just because it's not trending or doing anything, it's just stuck at this 150 sort of 20 level. I mean, it might start to trend, but yeah, you know what? I'm not crazy about these meme stocks. Let's see what AMC is doing. AMC could be like, because it's a meme stock, it might, you know, you might start to see some volume. And it might start to move. You know, I'm not going to watch it, but you might be able to pick that up on the scanner if it starts popping up on the scanner. I'm just looking here to see if there's anything else worth looking at. Just a quick mention, we're 1 week away, almost 1 week away from heading down to San Diego. If you hadn't decided to join us yet, you still can. There's still just a few seats available. We're getting a large number of signups here in the last week or so. So yeah, looking forward to going down and meeting all our members. These meetups are always fun. Baidu's breaking down a bit now. Yeah, so if you haven't made plans yet, maybe you might want to think about it again. So, all right, cues are starting to sell off a bit as we're getting closer here. So this is kind of when I watch to see what might be the best opportunities, and Nvidia's looking a little weak. Qs or SPY are starting to sell a little bit. Meta's selling off here. It's interesting. Good question. I don't know. Meta's got a really ugly spread. I don't like about that. Baba's popping up as we get closer to the open. IQ sold off. Nvidia just dropped. I think it's going to be kind of it's going to be an erratic open. I think we might give it a few minutes here. Just looking at Baba, I don't like that one. You know, we were looking weak going into the open, possible short. Now we're getting strength. Meta is still weak. Nvidia is looking weak. That's interesting. IQ weakened up. Minute and a half. SPY and Qs are still not really making any move one way or another. So interesting. I don't, yeah, like I said, I'm not, there's nothing here popping out at me quite yet. Nvidia might, I'd be watching Nvidia and Tesla catching a bid maybe, but like they usually do at the open. No, don't like anything that I'm looking at quite yet here. Drinks could be served. Yes. Okay, Bob is showing weakness again.